Are you like me and you bought a lot of this shirred fabric on clearance? So cute, so many great patterns, but we now all have a sundress. I'm Emily from Threaded Journey, and this is an easy sewing idea. I did a short sleeve shirt that was supposed to have a band around the bottom of the sleeve, and instead of doing the band, I used some of the shirring, kind of like an elasticated band instead. But this one, I'm gonna do a long sleeve. And this shirred part is going to be the cuff. Now, it's gonna take some thinking, but I'm for sure that I can do it and that you can do it too. So let's do this together. When you're looking at a pattern, obviously you need to pick a woven one. You need to pick one that is long sleeve, and I strongly suggest you pick one that you have made before. And you need one that has a gathered shoulder cap. Now, the reason you need to pick one you've made before is because it's gonna let you know if you need to add any length or take any length away when you're cutting out your sleeve. Add any width, that kind of thing, because you've already made the pattern before. This isn't going to be a hemmable sleeve. It's gonna be, it is where it is. You need to measure the shirring part on your fabric. So measure from the edge. This is going to be right at your wrist, right at your hand, and measure up to just the end of the elasticated part. You need to measure your arm. Elasticated part measures 6 inches. I'm going to look at my arm and measure 6 inches up. So I need this wrist measurement, that 6-inch measurement, and one at least halfway in between. So if you don't have one of these little suckers to measure yourself, it is very handy. I will link it in the description. It has come in very handy for measuring myself. You need those 3 measurements. Now we need to add a little bit to those measurements. You need a seam allowance. Don't forget your seam allowance. My pattern called for a 1 centimeter seam allowance for the whole rest of the pattern, so I'm gonna add that. So I need to multiply it by 2 centimeters. So I just made it 1 inch. That was easy to do. So I added 1 inch to each of my 3 numbers. You need a little wiggle room. You're not gonna want it to just strangle you. So here's where you need to look at how tight the shirring is. This one is pretty loose. This red one was a little bit tighter than the blue one, but was still loose. This one was tight. This one, I added an additional inch to each of my numbers. This one, I added an additional inch, but I should have added 1.5 inches. It would have just made it a little bit more comfortable, probably. You're just gonna have to look at it yourself and see how tight you want your cuff to be. What is comfortable for you? The first thing I need to look at is whether I need to add or subtract length. If your pattern is a hemmed shirt, you may need to subtract some length. Mine was a banded sleeve pattern, and so I needed to add length. I added my length down here, but I should have added it up here. If you're taking out just your hem length, I think it would be fine to take it out of the bottom. Next, we need to find the middle. So I'm just gonna fold my pattern in half, make a crease, and then I can make a little mark. Now we're going to add our measurements that we made. We're gonna do our first measurement, our middle measurement, and the top of our shirring right here. Then we're gonna just connect those lines the best we can. Err on probably the bigger side than the smaller side. Then we're gonna angle it up to the underarm piece. Do not take off anything from the actual pattern piece up here. If you look at these 2 sleeves, you can see a difference in the angle that was cut. This is a smaller size shirt than this one was. So this one ended up to be more of a straight sleeve than this one did. It has more of a poof up here, and this one is just a straight sleeve. If I had added my extra length up here where I should have made it where I did have to angle this out a little bit, both shirts looked adorable. So whatever works out for your pattern will be just fine, because it's just whatever you wanted to make. Hopefully you have cut this fabric before and you know that it is super difficult to work with. And I just kind of tried to make it as straight as possible. My first cuts are just going to be to the top of the shirring. The cuff of my sleeve has been cut, and I cut away the little extra over here, and I cut just a little bit over here, not a whole lot, but what would be up to the top of my underarm here. I'm able to flatten out this part of my fabric better than what I was when it was all still together. So I'm able to stretch it out just a little bit. I can still have those beautiful gathers right here as I'm messing with it, but I want to make sure that the top of my sleeve is as flat as I possibly can get it. That way I don't mess with what's going to happen connecting it to my bodice. I transferred my markings, and here is my finished cut sleeve, and I'm happy with that. The rest of your shirt pattern should be able to fit right at the bottom of where you cut out the sleeve. If it doesn't, you could shorten your pattern piece just a little bit. If you needed to, that would help. Now it's time to sew your pattern. Just make it however the instructions say. There shouldn't be any difference in how you're putting it together. Isn't it so cute? It's just something you can do with your extra sheared fabric that you have. This one is a little bit bigger. This one is not made for me, but about a size too big. This one was made for me, and I could have made it just a smidge longer. Would have been okay. And this is what I was talking about, going around your watch, just making it a little bit bigger, just be a little bit more comfortable. I found that when doing anything with cuffs. Learning something new? Subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. I've got more easy sewing ideas coming your way.